folks, welcome back to another episode of the Retail Perch. And I know we took a week's gap there in between, Gary, just trying to enjoy the weather and kind of stay cool in this heat, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to believe summer's almost over and Labor Day's just around the corner.
I know. These summers go, I think we went straight from winter into summer this time because it was just so hot. And it's still hot next week, but hopefully you guys out there are staying cool. And I want to appreciate your support for this podcast. And we are, I think before the end of the year, we'll be finishing our 100th episode. So here we are in the last quarter of our run here for the year. But today we have a very interesting guest, one more interesting guest at the Retail Perch, and somebody with a lot of experience and very, varied background. So I want to welcome Russ Hawkins, who is not, by the way, a cousin of Gary Hawkins. I just want to let you guys know. Before you think that we're sourcing our guests from internally in our family.
Total coincidence.
Exactly. It's total coincidence, but Russ comes to us from, a huge background, including, I see, Lucent Technologies, which used to be my old employer a long time ago. But Russ, welcome to the Retail Perch. Great to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Shekar. I'm very happy to be here. And cousin Gary, good to see you too again.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Let me know when the family reunion is.
I will. I'll let you know about that. Yeah.
Anyway, so Russ, if you can take a few minutes, just give us a quick background, your career, how'd you wind up with Agilence, what you did before. I can clearly see that you've got a very interesting background here. So.
Well, I started out, I'm from Boston originally and started out in the telecommunications business, actually, working for originally New England Telephone and then a variety of names over the years, ultimately ending up in Lucent. And in the late 90s, I, like a lot of people, became very interested in what was happening in the networking business and the technology business, and ended up trying to get into an entrepreneurial role, and ended up working for first a data communications company up in Connecticut, then a high performance computing company down in Pennsylvania, before I got into the software business. And Agilence is a data analytics company focused on retailers and restaurant chains. We typically are dealing with companies with hundreds of locations. And we started out in the restaurant business, specifically looking at asset protection and loss prevention opportunities with our software package. And over the years, we have evolved dramatically beyond that into a variety of other areas. We help, and we have about, let's see, at this point, I think we've got something in the order of 34 grocery chains that use our technology, about almost 1,000 locations each, so close to 30,000 grocery stores across primarily the United States. We do a little bit in convenience stores as well, and a little bit in drugstores, which in my mind are, at least the front end of drugstores are very much like grocery stores. At least they're evolving that way. And so, as we've evolved, we've helped our customers solve problems in the revenue management and customer attraction and retention area. We've built on our asset protection business to include things like labor management and inventory management. And then finally, we do a number of use cases around compliance, both compliance with external laws like money laundering and age verification and those kinds of things, but more importantly, helping our customers get alignment on strategy and culture from the boardroom to the stockroom, as I like to say it. So we've got about 70 people based in New Jersey, and we're growing at about 40% a year as people take advantage of our technologies.
That's really cool. That's fantastic. So primarily, this is a data analytics platform that's providing insights around those three key areas, right? So
that's correct. Yep. That's correct.
Revenue. I guess you're giving a view into revenue, labor management, and I guess loss prevention. That's like you said?
Yeah, I would call it revenue management,
Revenue management. Okay.
cost and expense controls, and compliance would be the three areas that we talk about. But there's lots of sub areas in there. And
Right.
you know, one great thing about our technology is that we don't know the full extent of how to use it. One of the things that we have done with our customer base is to encourage a community idea sharing among the customer base. And most of the good ideas about how to use our product come from our customers. And we're smart enough to say, okay, they know it better than us. So we'll take what they're suggesting and we'll share it with the rest of the group. And that whole kind of community ecosystem has proven to be a tremendous asset for us as we've built our business.
Nice, nice. So I'm clearly technology has had, and the evolution of machine learning and AI must have had an impact on some of the processes and how you're able to manage this large volume of data. So what's some of the things that you think have happened in the last 10 years that you could not do before?
Well, I think there's at least half a dozen, probably more areas. One that you guys know well is in the whole personalization area of messaging and of promotions and the whole loyalty, the evolution of the loyalty business. But you know, there's a number of other things that are going on in our background. You know, from reducing of losses in the business. The kind of combination of computer vision with visual artificial intelligence has driven a lot of opportunities and a lot of use cases for us. Could be as simple as analyzing the processes that go on inside the stores, looking at, you know, process automation and those kinds of things. With the evolution of some of the other technologies that have come on board, self-checkout, for example, is heavily leveraging things like computer vision to help improve both throughput as well as giving the grocery managers confidence that, you know, people aren't just walking out of the stores with things. It becomes it's useful to have some of these technologies in combination. A couple of other things that are happening on the asset protection area, you know, a long-standing area for grocers that has been of some concern is what so-called direct store delivery, where third-party companies like consumer products groups and those that are essentially stores within a store, they own shelf space in these stores, and you know, they have employees moving in and out of the store, delivering material, removing material. There's lots of opportunity for mistakes to be made, lots of opportunity for unfortunately people trying to game the system to some extent, but so that's been a growing area. And increasingly things like just managing the workforce and getting better leverage out of the team, making sure that they understand what the objectives of the company are. Most often that includes a heavy focus on customer satisfaction. So a lot of things in those areas around asset protection. But you know, other ways that AI and other technologies have been coming to the fore, especially recently, are things like dynamic pricing is starting to take hold, where we've got companies that are, you know, gathering pricing information on a near real time, or in some cases real time basis by, you know, scraping websites, monitoring competitor e-com, looking at competitor right down to a very local level. Looking at competitor promotions and then having the ability to very quickly make an assessment of the pricing positioning of the grocer themselves. So for example, you know, you've got 40,000, 50,000 SKUs in a grocery store, and you know, almost by definition, you're going to have some of those SKUs are going to be priced right. Some of them are going to be priced aggressively, and you know, there's some technologies now around that allow companies to get almost immediate feedback on how their pricing compares with their local competitors and with online stores. You know, one of the things they're most interested in is where they're out of line on price, right? Where they're priced too high, because they're quickly going to lose sales volume to the competitors. So that whole area of dynamic pricing is very interesting. It ties right into inventory management and quality control. Knowing oftentimes what products you could sell or should be selling. If you know what your competitors are doing, you may
Right.
find there's things that that you're not covering. Technology has been applied in a lot of other areas as well. The whole kind of cashierless economy is emerging on us right now.
Right.
We're seeing companies like
So
Amazon.
can I hold you there? Pause
Sure.
for a second. So when you're talking about labor management and time management, so how has this technology kind of helped in the last couple of years? There was a lot of labor shortages with that a lot of companies face, right? People just weren't coming back to work. Is there any application of this platform to help optimize available labor resources at a retailer?
Well, not sure. We're not really going to help them too much on the recruiting front, but we can
Right.
we make better utilization of the labor. We help them make better utilization of the labor that they've got. Now, of course, in the last couple of years, we've had this cataclysmic event for grocers with the advent of the pandemic, and that has changed a lot of things, right? First of all, customers want to buy differently. Oftentimes, we've seen, in addition to Instacart, other third-party ordering and delivery apps are becoming more and more important. Curbside pickup has become much more important during this period of
Right.
time. And so by understanding, what kind of volume is moving through these various delivery channels, our customers are more easily able to match their labor spend with the needs of their customers. And some of the technologies have also reduced the need for customers for labor. There's an interesting company out there that recently you may have heard the last couple of days. Amazon had just bought Roomba. Well, there's an earlier combination, a company called Brain Corporation that their original business was in using robots to monitor out of stocks in the store. So rather than having a person going around and looking at out of stocks and even expired material, they're starting to use robots. This particular company, I thought it was very, very clever what they did. They acquired a company that did kind of Roomba-like, but grocery stores have these big machines that will scrub the aisles at night, and so this software company went out and bought a robot company, and they mount their cameras on these machines that do cleaning the floors at the same time that they're
doing inventory.
Exactly. So this is taking some of the pressure off some of the overnight labor that's required to run these stores. So that's
Fascinating. I know we lost Gary there briefly. I'm sure he's going to be back, but let me ask you a question around the whole. I know you talked about inventory management and pricing. Is that something that also that you think Agilence involved in that side of things, or is it?
Well, from a pricing standpoint, so most of our work historically has been forensic. So we tell customers what they've done up till yesterday, but increasingly now we're using machine learning techniques to extrapolate those and be predictive about where pricing ought to be, and so we're adding features and functionality around that to help our customers better assess what the market requirements are and to be nimble in their pricing on an ongoing basis. So, yep, doing a little bit of that.
Got it.
So Russ, I spent a little bit of time on your website going through everything, and it looks like you also do some work around promotion analysis and helping a retailer understand what promotions are effective versus not effective.
Absolutely. And most of the time what we're doing is we're providing a tool that allows the people responsible for those functions inside the business to make better, quicker decisions. time to data is critical today. And so, from a promotion standpoint, that there's often the way the process has historically worked is a marketer in headquarters will come up with an idea of a promotion and even loyalty programs, and they'll have a theory about how a loyalty program or a promotion is going to impact sales. And oftentimes historically they've had to wait certainly days, but oftentimes weeks or months to determine whether that promotion was effective or not effective. Did it achieve the goals that it was laid out for? And we give our customers near real-time ability to assess that. So if they're breaking a new promotion, we can tell them, first of all, are all the stores honoring that promotion? Is the promotion having an impact across the way? And a lot of times there are stragglers. There are stores that didn't put the promotional material out, or they didn't implement. They didn't get
Right.
the signage out. They didn't get the actual inventory out onto the floor. So we help them understand the effectiveness of the program, and increasingly we're helping them predict whether particular promotions are going to achieve the goals. So there's a feedback loop there that helps them design better promotions and get better, incremental improvement over time, and get better and better at what they're doing. So we're embracing a lot of these areas, and that's an example of the kinds of things where customers are teaching us, right? Most of the professionals in these organizations, they know the questions they want to ask. They know the kinds of objectives they have. They know the problems that they've endured in the past, and they're looking for ways to get better. And so they've embraced our tool. Oftentimes, they find that our time to data is better than other ways that they can get information, and that lets them react much more quickly to the challenges. So they're knowing in a matter of hours whether the promotion is successful. It gives them the opportunity to tweak them kind of real time, and then get better results out of the dollars that they're expending. And quite frankly, does it meet the objectives that they set? Are they actually getting an overall sales lift when they promote certain products? And so being able to compare not just the individual SKU or group of SKUs, but also to determine whether the overall volume
Right, kind of like what's the halo effect of the promotion, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. I know you talk about just slightly changing topics, that there's a certain element of risk when, I guess, especially in the pandemic, people had to scramble to put together e-commerce solutions to make sure people can order online, and a lot of people had to rely on third parties to kind of bring that capability up online, like the Instacarts of the world. I know you think that there's some risks associated with it. What specifically you think are the risks for a grocer when they?
Well, in a word, the first word I would say is the customer data, is having access to the customer data. There's a rich vein of opportunity for most grocers by understanding the buying behaviors, the product affinities that individual customers have, understanding the different cohorts of customers that are frequenting their store. And early on, Instacart has changed some of their policies now, but early on, Instacart was kind of holding the data and not really sharing the customer's own data with them. And so that has created an evolution in the perspective of these grocers. A couple of other things are in the one thing in particular for grocers, especially those that have house brands, is when you delegate the picking of orders to a third party, that third party is going to have different objectives than you have. You may want to substitute a house brand or a private label brand rather than another national brand for something that might be out of stock. And you lose control of that customer interaction by relying on these third parties. So we're seeing a trend now for companies to be building their own e-com platforms and their own picking and delivery platforms. And of course, the venture community and the technology community is responding with, I'll call them Instacart variants that promise to retain or have that grocer retain the data. But I think it's really data access and data management and protecting the data, which is effectively theirs. I mean, it's their customers that are creating the data. It's their stores that are creating the data. They need to leverage it. And of course, there's lots of different levels of sophistication among grocers. And so we see lots of opportunity to educate companies about best practices. And as a result of some of this, we've seen Instacart change some of their policies so that they share more of the data and the grocer has more say in what's happening. Another area that is very important in my view is in the prepared foods area. Prepared foods is a huge revenue driver, a huge halo effect around prepared foods. So being able to predict demand on that, let's call it the rotisserie chicken, for example. If you're consistently running out of rotisserie chicken, you're not getting any of the halo around that rotisserie chicken sales, because if I'm a household that's coming in to pick up tonight's meal, I'm almost certainly going to buy other things, and so I want to be able to make sure that I capture all of that stuff. So
yeah, well, talking about Instacart data, I think Gary and I can spend the rest of the day talking about it. It's been a topic of many episodes on the retail perch, and I think you're absolutely right, Russ. I think when it comes to data, and we talk to some retailers who don't have a sense into who's buying what, and it's a little scary sometimes because you feel that they're flying completely blind, right? They have no idea. All they know is aggregated sales by category and store, and they don't know the makeup of their customers, their behaviors, or if there's a change in trends. It's all, by the time you know it, it's too late, right? And you can't really, even if you do know it, you don't know how to reach these customers because you don't know who they are. So, it's just a lot of issues when you don't have, and I think even people like Walmart, who've largely been price driven, are slowly starting to think about implementing a loyalty platform of some sorts, right? I think Walmart Plus is something along those lines is in the works. So I can imagine that it's impossible. I mean, when you start looking at data which is customer identified, and you can easily draw inferences and insights, you wonder what people without that data even do, right?
Yes. Well, yeah, exactly. But I think a lot of the times they're flying by the seat of their pants, right? They do have information about, as you mentioned, high-level aggregated sales numbers and those kinds of things. But a lot of times these are professionals that have many years of experience, and they're leveraging their own instincts and their own experience, which, by the way, may not be right. It certainly there's a high probability that it's not right in today's world, especially what we've gone through in the last several years.
Sure. Yeah, well, as retail competition continues to evolve, and we see more digital native companies getting into retail, and certainly Amazon is, the big one. But digital natives are much more data savvy, and they just couldn't imagine, I think, doing business without all this data. And I think that gives them a real advantage over more traditional retailers that don't have this data.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right about that.
So a couple of weeks ago, we had a guest from Retail Feedback Group, Doug Maidenberg, one of the principals there. And they ran a survey among shoppers about how much margin they thought the shoppers thought that the grocers made. And apparently they all thought that the grocers make about 30% profit.
Oh my God.
Right? That's the perception, which, obviously Gary and I laughed at that. Like, they're kind of like living by the skin of their teeth. But we all know, how low the margins are in supermarket. And given that, obviously, loss prevention, shrinkage, all that becomes super important, right? And so, what do you, from what your vantage point, what are you seeing as, ways that grocers could maybe save some of that margin? Where are they losing it that's preventable, you think?
Well, some of the things we've already talked about, a part of the answer here. The prepared foods obviously is higher margin stuff and it has a big halo around that. But there's really kind of, I think, usually I think of it as this kind of three categories of losses. There's expected losses, right? You have um, perishable goods, the deli and the fruits and vegetables, and even prepared foods, where managing the production and the availability of that product, reducing the amount of waste that you have to dispose of, can be very significant, and it can help if you can get a better handle on that, be better able to predict volumes, better able to predict categories and individual food items, that the demand for those things is going to make you better at inventory management and reduce this so-called expected shrink, as they describe it. The two other areas is kind of what I call accidental and intentional losses, right? So unfortunately there are intentional losses, right? Which is you have the unfortunate situation where some of your employees are your silent partners. You don't really know that they're your partners, but they end up being your partners. And so things like sweethearting, also known as passing, is something that's pretty common in grocers. Some of the things that you can do there is look for affinity among products, right? I'm buying cocktail sauce, but I'm not buying any bags of shrimp. I wonder what I'm dipping the shrimp into. So looking at those kinds of things, looking at affinity between employees is another area in the whole sweethearting and passing area. A greatly emerging area, one that's accelerating now, being done on a standalone basis, but in places like Amazon and others. But self-checkout is becoming more and more important. It's helping. Partially, the embrace of this more recently is partially a reflection of what we were talking about earlier in terms of labor availability, and it makes grocers very, very nervous. They've been very, very slow. The technology has been around for a long time, but they've been relatively slow to embrace it because of fear of losing lots of material. And so now with computer vision and other techniques, they're able to get confidence that these self-checkout operations can be done and can be done efficiently, and without the annoying place your item in the box, place your item in the bag that kind of plagued some of the early deployments of self-checkout. So monitoring self-checkout and having the ability to analyze performance of those self-checkouts, looking at data analytics along with visual artificial intelligence, is helping them improve that and get more confidence. And that pays dividends in multiple ways. It better serves customers because many customers want to have that, the frictionless checkout process, and it also reduces labor costs on their part. Now we're seeing the evolution of smart carts and apps that have not only the ability to have you self-serve, but also provide maps of where the items that you're looking for are in the store. So the shopper can move very effectively and quickly through the store. I know that for me, historically in my family, I didn't do much of the shopping, and when my wife gives me a shopping list, I end up taking twice as much time because I don't know where anything is, and I have to walk around the aisles, search for this.
Russ, you're talking about the origin story of Bird's Eye. That's how we started. And that's why because I couldn't find half the things in a supermarket.
And so hopefully you give good credit to your 11-year-old daughter at the time, I guess.
Yeah. It keeps coming up, and we're still negotiating. So.
Russ,
go ahead.
So Russ, you just mentioned like smart carts. I'm wondering if you are working with any retailers where you've got access to some of these new data streams like smart carts or computer vision like Amazon's, just walk out technology where they're monitoring the entire store. Because I got to believe there's some just incredibly powerful insights that come out of that new data.
Absolutely. And that's really the foundation of our company, which is to essentially aggregate all of the available data in the store and then manage it. So we harmonize the data so that it can be compared with other data sources. We have under development now a benchmarking product. So when we do this harmonization of the data, we're doing it in a way that will allow us to compare performance from one grocer to another, so they know how they're doing against a peer group. Today, we bring in pretty much every transactional data source. Typically, our customers start with half a dozen data sources. We bring in the POS transaction log in a very, very granular detail. We bring in the e-com feeds that they have, the store file, which often has inventory component to it. Some stores have different product mixes than others. The employee file, specifically the item file, so everything that they sell, and often the loyalty information. And increasingly, these other data sources are being incorporated into our databases. After we harmonize this stuff, what we do is we enhance it and we improve it by adding operators. They can be mathematical or statistical operators, and we make them accessible to our customers. They can take this resulting database and ask questions of it using a data analytics tool that we provide to them. And so we're really all about bringing all the relevant data into the database and making it easily accessible to our customers. What I mean by easily accessible is you don't have to have a PhD to figure out how to ask your questions. You can ask your questions in basic math terms or in basic English terms, and you can get the answers that you need now, and that allows you to make better decisions on a much more timely basis. So yeah, the evolution of those kinds of technologies, RFID technologies is another one that's we're incorporating into the solution. And from our view is the more the merrier. The more data that we can aggregate, the more valuable we can make the databases that we're creating, and the more valuable our tool can be for helping customers answer the questions that they already know. Like I said, we're not going to tell a marketer how to do their job, but we're going to give them a tool that lets them do their job better. That's what we're all about.
Oh, fascinating. So let's see. We're about a few minutes to the end here. I got a question for you, and this has, I guess, been a topic, especially during the pandemic. A lot of people brought this up because e-commerce was booming, and e-commerce was growing at a rate that people didn't anticipate. And I think we're seeing now that e-commerce at most stores is kind of hit a plateau. It's kind of hit some level, maybe because people are just hungry for going back in store and in personal interaction. Maybe it's going to go back up. But what do you feel is the future of brick and mortar? I mean, you think some of the learnings from e-commerce are kind of fed back into brick and mortar now? And
no question about it. No question about it. And you mentioned it earlier, the way that e-commerce is able to take the data and turn it into meaningful marketing programs. And I think the grocers have learned from this. I'll tell you that it's actually turned around. It's actually declining as a percentage of total sales. If I look across the entire retail landscape, I think it maxed out at just under 20% during the height of the pandemic. And now it's edging back down into around the 15% range, which I think is kind of the natural level. I mean, to paraphrase Mark Twain, the demise of bricks and mortar retailers has been greatly exaggerated. I just don't see it happening. I mean, there's so much around the experience of shopping, especially in grocers. I mean, people, they want to touch things. They want to feel the freshness. They want to have the experience. If you go into we have business in the specialty retail clothing area. We have business in the restaurant business as well, which is a little bit different than what we're talking about. But this whole idea of shoppertainment is, I think, a key thing where, people want to be out of the house. I think you've got it absolutely right, Shekar. People want to be out of the house. They want to experience the world. We had enough. Speaking for myself, I've had enough of sitting at home, and and I want to go out there. And I think that we're seeing the evolution of the business into more of an ecosystem of ordering and distribution. You look at some of the things that happened during the pandemic, curbside delivery, third-party delivery, some of the things we've already talked about. Those are things that are going to continue to be important, but the individual is thirsting for the opportunity to go out and meet people and relate.
Yeah. And I think people want choice. They don't want, I think e-com in the pandemic was a necessity.
Right.
It's going to now live on as a choice, right? Where it's a flexibility of being able to interact with the business in multiple ways, whether it's ordering on your phone or pick up and curbside or walk inside the store. I think people just want to have the independence of making the choice whenever they want to, right?
Absolutely. They want to buy the way they want to buy. They want to
Correct.
have the options of, selection the way they want to do it. And they want it either picked up or delivered the way that they want to do it. And I think all of those things are here to stay. But I don't believe that that e-com is going to eat bricks and mortar. I think bricks and mortar is going to live on for a long time because it's what people want to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, what we're saying here, I think, is that, and we've said this all the while here, Gary, is that data becomes more and more important. If you don't have a way of maintaining your data, don't have data discipline as a business, and collecting important data that's going to enhance your operation, not from a creepiness factor, but more from a factor of how do I use it to minimize losses and increase my margins, serve my customers better. That's really the bottom line. If you don't have that, then I think you're going into this future in a very shaky vehicle, right? Yeah.
You will be at a competitive disadvantage if you do not embrace the data that you're producing and find ways to improve your actions based on that data. You'll be at a competitive disadvantage, and nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, that seems terrific. I mean, companies like yours, Agilence, are doing amazing things with the data for retailers. And how many are you finding any pushback from retailers of being able to give you the data and let you handle them? How many of them want to just do it in-house? I mean, or how do you make them comfortable about
security
being the partner?
Yeah, so there's different retailers are at different places in their data management journey, so to speak. And so we have seen, and it's not just pandemic related, we have seen a long-term trend toward trusting third parties that can prove that they're trustable, that they should be trusted. We work very, very hard on making sure customers understand that they own their own data and that we are just stewards of it, and we try to be very, very good stewards of the data. So we invest a lot of our time and energy on securing the information, making it easily accessible to our customers, and really providing this tool that gives them the ability to ask questions the way that they want to ask the question. So we make big investments in data security. We make big investments in communication security, in terms of the way they get it to us and the way we give it back. We have had some situations where customers have been reluctant to give up the data. Mostly that's been driven by IT organizations that are crawling through their own evolutionary path as well. Mm-hmm. But more and more today, we're seeing people get comfortable with SaaS-based applications, software as a service applications. We're able to convince our customers that their data is secure with us, that we won't mishandle it, and we won't make it available for anything that they don't want it to be available for.
Right.
And we've been able to be pretty successful in doing that, and change a lot of hearts and minds about it in the IT organization. So we're really seeing a major transition in willingness to trust third-party vendors like ourselves.
Yeah.
Fascinating. No, I think, wow, this has been a great conversation. And, it happens very often. We have very interesting guests, and before you know it, we're kind of racing towards the end of the episode. But Russ, I want to thank your time for being on the show. I'm sure this is going to be very interesting for a lot of our listeners. It certainly was for me and Gary. Whether other people like it or not, it's up to them. But I had a great time talking to you.
That's right. We a lot.
I've enjoyed meeting you guys as well, and I've been really excited about the opportunity to share some of our ideas, and really appreciate it. So thanks.
Yeah, and I think if I had to give you grades on how you did on your first podcast, you would get an A+. So,
all right, very good.
Great job.
Yeah, you did a fantastic job, and I think it was super informative. I certainly, you had my attention the entire episode, so I'm sure our listeners felt the same. I want to thank you, but if you want to, I'll put a pause here so that we can take it out of this episode. But if you can just hang on for a minute after we stop recording.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, so guys, thank you again for supporting us. I want to thank Stephanie Doherty and our intern for putting this episode out there. And Gary, any closing thoughts before we close out this episode?
No, Russ, thank you for being with us today. Great conversation.
Yeah.
All right, Gary. Well, thank you, and I'll make sure to let you know about the family reunion.
All right, please do.
Thanks so much for your attention, and thanks for giving me confidence. I was a little,
oh, you did great.
Concerned about my ability to keep up with you guys, but
no.
I'm glad.
You did more than that. So
well,
terrific. All right. Make sure to join us every Monday and connect with us at the Retail Perch on Instagram and Facebook.
And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at theretailperch@birdseye.com.
Until next time, this is Shekar.
And this is Gary, signing off.